Okay. So I think there will be more and more people joining in, but I also want to be mindful of everyone else's time. So let's get it started. And for those who are late or for those who will need to drop off in the midst, obviously the recording will be shared as well as all the materials. So you don't worry about that. And welcome everyone. Today we are having this. Hopefully conversation about personalization. And I'll be honest, this is like one of my favorite topics. The reason for that is because we have been talking about personalization for years now, right? So I'm quite sure like all of you is very much familiar with the term, right? But for some reason, it still remains to be one of the overlooked areas in marketing. Why so? We're going to dig deeper into this during today's conversation. As I already said before, please share your questions in the chat. There will be a Q&A session at the very end because there are two goals for this discussion. So first, we really want to make this webinar as practical as possible for you. So want to offer you both like the high level helicopter view, like some strategic insights, but at the same time, the goal is to make sure that you walk away with very specific ideas that you can implement straight away after the webinar. And secondly, we want to make sure that, again, we address what concerns you. So again, I will be asking you questions during this presentation, but I will be also expecting you to ask some questions. So let's make it a discussion. All right. And before we go into the whole, again, magical topic of personalization, uh, for those who don't know me, I'm Olga Denisova, and I've been doing marketing for more than 15 years now. But most importantly, I have dedicated the last 10 years to hyper growth companies. And I had a chance to see companies grow not even like 50, 70, 100% in revenue year over year, but sometimes like 2 times, 3 times growth. And we're talking here both about like mid-market and enterprise segments and SMB. And I got a chance to know what it takes to enable this hyper growth mode. And today, again, I'm so excited to share with you some of the insights what can actually enable this hyper growth mode. And the premise for today's conversation is actually where we are with marketing nowadays. Because if you have been in marketing for several years, and I assume you have been, you know that before marketing motto was very much like growth at all costs. We fancied budgets of pre-pandemic and pandemic era when it was like, again, you just throw in money and you see this against crazy skyrocketing growth. But I would say last year actually introduced a totally new approach. Right now, growth at all costs does not interest anyone anymore, right? So I'm quite sure many of you faced certain budget reductions last year, and this year, the freshly started 2024 also tells us you need to enable sustainable growth. And as any marketer, there is usually like several ways to take a stab at it, right? So first, obviously, you can grow through your owned channels. The downside here is that, hey, everybody does that. So whenever it comes to creating content on landing pages or doing social media, it's really hard to be heard uh, among all the other companies. We also have paid channels to grow, obviously, but it does require investment and very often quite high investment. And yes, we also have earned or shared channels, right? PR and third-party media and online reputation management. But this is very slow to show immediate ROI. And we as marketers, I'm quite sure you were as well, very often asked, show me immediate ROI, show me immediate growth. And another aspect to that is it's no longer feasible. It's no longer working for us to show growth just within one channel, right? So we talk about the optimization of each stage of the funnel, right? So it's not enough to scale, okay, acquisition only or retention. We are talking about optimization across the full marketing journey. And so the question is, okay, so what can drive the growth across the full customer journey at relatively low cost? And again, you probably anticipated the answer, right? So obviously, again, since the topic is personalization, I do believe that personalization is this force that can enable this hyper growth across the whole customer journey. Why so? I'll give you some examples so that you understand that you don't take my word for it, but again, you take some hard facts. And hard facts show that 66% of customers, they expect personalization, and 76% they get frustrated when personalization doesn't happen. So in other words, it's no longer, some fancy, add-on that you can add, but this is like a must-have. And you would think that everybody does personalization, right? Wrong. So it's only 34% of companies which actually personalize communication. So here I would really love to ask you now, like, and again, if you feel shy, please don't share it in the chat. But yeah, answer to yourself. So do you believe that you actually do personalization? Because again, if you do, okay, that's good. But if you don't, you definitely can use it as a big competitive advantage. That's number one. And number two, again, it goes at really low cost. And for those who already do personalization, so you may wonder, okay, so what can I get from this webinar? What can I learn if I already do this? You probably already do emails, personalizing, first name. You probably have an abandoned cart trigger. You probably do ABA marketing. It's very likely that, hey, it's 2024, we talk about AI, so you probably have already purchased AI-driven personalization tools. But this is also when comes the most interesting part, even for those who have already done some work with personalization. And here comes the example that personalization is actually way more complicated than we tend to think. And even more, even the biggest brands often fail. So here is a real life Reebok example. So there was an email sequence showing 50% discount for you and only you personally. And even more, there was this text message, again, personalized specifically for you, offering this discount. But then the moment that when you actually tried it, you got this message, this promo code is invalid. So even Reebok, with as many resources as they have, they failed in this personalization attempt. So I really want to ask you, so does anyone have did anyone have any similar experience? I need to say that I ran into issues like this, like at least on a monthly basis. So I'm quite sure that you guys do as well. Yes, many times, exactly. So you do know that, again, everyone tries to do that, but again, they often fail. And that is why, again, to make this webinar as practical as possible, we're going to discuss. Yeah, still hurts. I hear you. Exactly. So, how not to make it hurtful, not for the customer, not for the company. So, this is what we're going to discuss today. So, we are going to discuss three main challenges that you face when you try to implement personalization, and again, as practical as possible, right? So that's why we will be also reviewing real life working examples from real life brands from all segments, so that you again can walk away and start doing some personalization tricks. So challenge number one: what is already done is way too simple or generic. And like the best illustration comes from Marketunist. If you don't read him, highly recommend. So this is like the essence of marketing knowledge in the cartoon form. But this again shows the idea of this challenge very well. So it's either you personalize only the name, which is again super basic, like, hey Sarah, we have amazing deals, Sarah, just for you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah, we're waiting for you, Sarah. Or it's like superficial, based on your like geography or your age or your gender. Again, like, tell me if you have faced this. I faced it so many times. Like, okay, just because I'm a woman, I'm offered certain things, and I would be like, okay, why would you do that to me? It's again 2024. And one of the reasons why it happens is again because we marketers approach, let's say, very fundamental thing like a welcome flow in a very basic manner. So this is like, I would say, very usual welcome flow. It's not bad. Again, many companies use it, but basically we have only two scenarios, right? And this is based on the customer status in our CRM. You're either a customer or you're not, and that's it. And then we would customize again, name at best. While the advanced level here, and this is a real life example, uh, is when it is based not only on the status. As you will see here, it's also based on the source, on the origins of the lead information, right? So, okay, we have a separate okay, we have customers coming from pop-ups. We have customers having our app installed or not. And then only comes the question of the order itself, and then we put different variations based on, okay, was the order made or not, was it done through mobile app or not, was there a subscription trial activated or not. So in other ways, we create separate scenarios for all the multiple use cases that we have. And obviously, again, there are many more cases. This slide is not enough to show it, but I think you get the idea. And this is another great example from a bigger brand about this, again, hyper personalized experience. And I need to make this note. When we talk about personalization nowadays, most often we talk about hyper personalization when every single aspect is actually customized your personal story. And Jimmy Jones do that magnificently. I'm quite sure you know Spotify yearly wrap up. So please, yeah, tell me in the chat if you use Spotify and you check, their personalized yearly wrap ups. I'm quite sure I'm not alone. Yes. It's a lot of us. Yeah, Spotify did it magnificently well, but it's not only them actually, right? So here is an example of, again, hyper personalized year in review. And they actually, what they do, they showcase how many inches of sandwiches you consumed, what was your favorite one, what was your favorite store. And not only it drives, certain fun element, customer loyalty, it builds, certain reputation. It's also a great way to actually prevent churn, and secondly, incentivize to do an additional order, right, to make you a returning customer. So really well done. And it brings me to the second challenge, and this is, I would say, very typical mistake of us as marketers. I'm also guilty as charged. And this is treating customer journey as linear. So first, again, I'm the biggest advocate for building customer journey as linear one in order to provide structure to your marketing communications, right? But at the same time, we tend to forget that customer journey, customer experience never equals customer journey, right? So it's not linear. It can be as sporadic as it can be, right? So customer may jump between stages. And it means that our personalization cannot be linear. That's one aspect. And the second aspect is that it cannot be limited to one channel. And again, this genius guy, marketingist, makes again a great job in illustrating what it very often feels like. So when you again receive this completely irrelevant offer, as if the company has no idea where you are right now within your customer journey, and it's very often the question, okay, but I already customized, let's say, email, and it's going to take me quite some time and effort to customize, let's say, all of my content or like text messages. Like, why would I bother? But here is the thing, and Amazon shows the great potential of end-to-end customization, end-to-end personalization. More than 1/3 of their sales last year and 29% of revenue. Just think about, again, just think about these numbers. When I learned them, I was like, oh my God, 29% of the revenue actually comes from personalization. And this is not the personalization of one email sequence or, again, in product communications. It's full end-to-end communication, right? So it's emails, ads, in product communication, sign up flows, mobile recommendation, everything. So again, here we talk about hyper personalization, but on top of that, we talk about cross channel personalization. So next time when you think about, okay, how can I boost my revenue? Probably instead of launching another marketing campaign, what you may consider is doing this end-to-end hyper personalization. Yes, it will be hard to measure like one particular channel, how it contributed, but when you enable it across the full customer journey, across all channels, I'm quite sure you'll see quite significant example. And again, another example for your inspiration. This time we move away from enterprise brands and we focus on SMB. So jewelry brand German Kabirski shows a great case of very elegant and I would say simple hyper personalization, which goes cross channel, and I'm quite sure boosts their revenue quite a lot. So first, when you go to their website, there is again this pop up, not too unusual, I would say, but the beauty of it comes again in the sequence and cross channel integrity. So once you entered your data in this pop up, then there is this email that aims not to sell, but it aims to enrich your customer profile, and you'll hear more from me talking about profiling. So here, as you may see, they don't tell anything. They ask you of your birth date, and they put a good incentive for you, like, okay, share your birth date and get your gift. Okay, imagine that you didn't convert there. Then again, there will be a pop-up aiming to enrich your profile as a customer so that they could do better personalization. And then 1 week before your birthday, you get this promo code plus personal recommendations. And even more, if they see that you have not used this promo code 3 days after the celebration day, there is again an email reminding you about your promo code. And last but not least, again, when you come to their website, it's the same promo code, and unlike Reebok, it's working. So that's another example of very simple idea, but very elegantly implemented across multiple channels, and thus it drives this effect of synergy between channels. Okay, moving on. Challenge number 3: right person, right message, wrong time. So v- a very, very, very frequent case. Again, give me a plus if you have encountered this. But unfortunately, even though we know the holy grail of marketing, which is right person, right message, right time, how many times did you receive some promo code at a completely wrong time? I'll give you this example. A good friend of mine shared it with me. So, a personal story. So, my friend received 10% discount for a fridge when they already made a purchase at a full price. So can you imagine their frustration? Not only we're talking about again lost customers loyalty, we talk about the potential return obviously. So in other words, again, a very, very, very common mistake, unfortunately. Reason for that, obviously, lack of connection between multiple tools and multiple data sources. So there are so many tools, there are so many scenarios, there are so many ongoing campaigns. It's just sometimes impossible to connect it all together. So the answer to that is obviously uniting customers' data in one platform. We're going to talk about this in more detail in a couple of minutes from now. But lesson learned, right? So it should be all three components. And here is again for your inspiration, as practical as possible, a few examples when the companies were able to make it work just at the right time. So, for example, EasyJet, they tied their marketing initiative both to personal and company's milestones. So they were celebrating 20-year anniversary, and instead of just doing yet another bulk email and probably yet another, sales of tickets, what they've done, they also tied their personalized campaigns to the personal milestones, reminding people about their last travel or about on this specific date, remember, you traveled to Faro. And then they would customize the offer for this person to repeat their experience. For me, again, very simple idea, very elegantly made. Again, it's not only enterprise. Here is another SMB example. Pet store chain Beethoven, what they do, they actually send you an email just when you are about to run out of your previously ordered goods. So that's, you see the connection between the history of purchases and again email. Another beautiful example from another SMB brand is this both email and text sequence. So what they do, they inform you about discounts, but not just again inform you about the discounts. It will be just the usual sale email. They send it when the customer has not made a purchase from the previous communications. So this is another idea of doing an upsell in a very timely manner. You check the websites, so you are very likely to convert. But if you haven't converted, you'll get an SMS from us. So with all these examples, I want to make some conclusions, right? So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is to make personalization work, it has to be first hyper personal, second aligned across all channels, and third timely. So it all together, it drives this compound effect of synergy between channels, and again a user gets this impression that then converts into revenue, that you actually know what they need. And then the implementation part starts, right? So okay, Olga, these are all great examples. What do I need to do? We have an answer for you. So first, I'm going to walk you through three key focus areas that I would recommend you going through after this webinar, ideally, to make things work. So first, it all starts with foundation. So remember, I promised you to talk a little bit more about profiling. So personalization is impossible. Hyper personalization is double impossible if you don't do correct user tracking and profiling. So please go back to your analytics team and check how do you tag all customers' activities across your systems and how you record them, because sometimes we track them, but then again records not consistent, they're not organized. So that brings me to the second point: deep segmentation. So when you understand, okay, what you need to track, and you build your profiling, then try to understand the trends, the patterns in your users' behavior, and organize segments following these patterns. So again, very likely it's not going to be based on country or gender, but it's going to be way more nuanced. And as I already mentioned, very often all the fails, like in Reebok's case, they come from lack of connectedness between data sources. So if you want to drive personalization, think about whether you already have or you need to implement customer data platform, which will unite, consolidate all the information about your customers. Once it's done, you may move to the second pillar. And the second pillar here is building cross-channel personalization scenarios, right? So remember, you already analyzed your customer behavior. You already pinpointed certain patterns, or instead you already know what you want your customers to perform. So that's when you start creating this omni-channel campaigns, right? So very, I will recommend you doing very basic example, very basic exercise. So tomorrow, uh, what I would do is analyze um, all the email sequences that you have, and checking, okay, the content, the time of send outs. Then do the same, not only across all different email types, but also if you do text messages, between text messages, also check, okay, your content plan, how does it align with your email communications? In other words, literally lay out all the scenarios that we have across different means of communications. Ads, obviously, ad campaigns also come in this bucket. And I'm quite sure, first, you'll have a lot of revelations. Never have I ever had a chance when everything was perfect. There would always be some inconsistency, some outdated, again, promo code or something. So not only it's a way to optimize and get rid of everything that's not working, secondly, you will then understand how you can streamline your communications in major flows. Secondly, whenever we talk about personalization, it always comes with dynamic content marketing. There is no way you're going to manually alter every single message. So think about how you're going to implement dynamic content marketing. And thirdly, think about what programs you can implement on a regular basis. An example, loyalty program. So again, the a very good bulk of your revenue comes from returning customers. If it's not, it's a red flag. So it's time for you to think about, okay, how can I build a loyalty program once I already know the patterns? So think about this the following manner. Okay, if person buys product A, it's likely they're going to buy product B. Or, okay, if they usually extend their subscription on day X, that's the usual revenue that I'm getting from them. Once these two steps are done, then you can pass to step number 3, and this is innovate and iterate. And it comes, I think it's the core, it's like the essence of marketing, right? So we need to A/B test everything that we do. And but most importantly, you should test once you build the foundation, and these are first two steps. So first obvious idea for test is AI-driven product recommendations, machine learning. Here, your best partner in crime is obviously your analytics team or your data science team. So please partner with them. This is like literally my first go-to team outside of the marketing team. These are, again, best partners in crime. Secondly, test real-time personalization. Again, very often driven by AI and machine learning. And then you need to make sure that you build the processes that enable you to roll out A/B tests very fast. So in this case, when it comes to org, make sure to dedicate a team member responsible for A/B tests. Allocate a separate budget for tests only. So build it in the usual workflow within your marketing team. And here comes again, as promised, as practical as possible, right? So here is the action plan that you can use, again, as a cheat sheet from today's webinar to actually start implementing the personalization. Obviously, you're going to get the presentation right after the webinar. And even more. So again, when it comes to marketing, it always has to be practical. So that's why we're going to give you two more examples of real companies. First, what it actually takes to implement personalization, and then you will be able to compare yourself against Benetton and see, okay, so when we talk about marketing efficiency and personalization, you're going to get some benchmarks from Benetton to compare yourself against. And now I pass it over to Alex from Pine Melon Company, the company that were able to successfully implement personalization together with Maestro.
Hey everyone. I won't be able to share a lot of details, but I can speak from the business owner's standpoint. First of all, a little bit about myself. I'm a repeat founder. I've built three other e-commerce businesses before I've started this one, and with three successful exits. And a couple of years ago, I moved from Kazakhstan to the United States, to Denver, Colorado. And here I started another company. The company is called Pine Melon, and it's a local first online grocery service, a platform for local farmers, ranchers, and makers that connects them to the local consumers. And we started quite successfully. In the first year, we actually grew 6 times. But the challenges that we had in the beginning, and to be honest, we continue to have them, is that the customer acquisition is extremely expensive in the United States, as you know. So we were at a certain point, we started thinking about, I mean, should we continue just throwing money at the growth without paying attention to the retention and purchase frequency, or should we somehow tackle this part of the equation as well? And we decided that even though we were in a situation when we were juggling different priorities, we decided that we need to somehow figure out how to deal with the retention and purchase frequency. That's how we decided to reach out to Maestro and started working with them. And I would say that from the business owner standpoint, the most important part from the very beginning is goal setting. You have to understand early on what are you going to do with it, why are you starting personalization effort at all. And From my perspective, it's about the metrics that you track, the KPIs, and the impact that you want to make with that. So in terms of retention, you might want to measure the current retention rate from your customer base and calculate what if you, for example, double your retention or reduce your churn rate by half. How much does it cost for you to acquire the same number of customers? And then it translates to a very, tangible revenue that you lose each month. So with that being said, you can um, basically try to establish your goals. For example, I want to double the retention rate. I want to maybe grow the purchase frequency by certain number of purchases or by certain percentage, and go from there. In terms of our collaboration, we basically started working with Maestro, and then on our end, yeah, we do have back-end developers, and we do have a couple of marketing specialists. But at the same time, I think it's there are many ways of doing this. I think if you understand the business need, you can figure it out. You can collaborate with external computer programmers or marketers to help you with that. That's basically it. Maybe a short introduction into the world of personalization from my point of view.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, very much. What I usually appreciate about like the business perspective is that it's very straightforward. Like, okay, all marketing tools aside, we wanted to drive revenue. So, and it's like the most usual, conversation that I have as a marketing leader, right? So, again, whenever I tried to sell personalization, it was never the personalization per se, right? But it's about the okay customer retention. It's about the annual recurring revenue, and I think that's the again the beauty of the personalization implementation is that it usually shows really 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 nice ROI. And yeah, so these are actually quite fancy, I would say, examples from Alexei's company in some eye candy, what they call it, that you sometimes want to show to your board members or to your C-level leadership about that. Hey, not only it drives revenue, it also drives certain positive momentum for your customers. So that's definitely, again, compare yourself against this real life example. I would say that not all of the enterprise communications are that not only fancy looking, but also again UX UI is perfect, and again they are personalized. So that's a real life example of what it may look like in SMB. But so yeah, these are some numbers from Alexei that he was very very shy to share. But yeah, here we may see again amazing growth number in terms of revenue driven from automatic flows, like 50% plus revenue growth from just personalized flows, and time to value 5 months. So talk about immediate effect. So what I promised you, right? So okay, how your marketing efficiency can compare against United Colors of Benetton. The reason we decided to add this block was, I'm not sure what about you, but I very often, when I do anything in marketing, I always wonder, okay, so am I doing just fine? Like, what are the benchmarks? And for me, it's usually like the most insightful thing that you can find is, okay, how actually others perform. And so that's the very reason why we have these slides, and hopefully they're going to be as insightful for you as they were for me. So here we talk about the real life story of Benetton, of one of the branches of Benetton that still has 22 stores, e-commerce website, mobile app, in-store kiosks, and employee side app. And yeah, the question is, okay, so what were they able to accomplish within a year's time with personalization? And secondly, how actually much time and effort it took them to make it work. So we talk about crazy number, whooping number of 88% of revenue generated by returning customers, and returning customers are always at least twice less expensive than newly acquired ones. So again, extremely favorable ROI. 27% of increase in LTV, 24% increase in average order value, and the scale of personalization that they were able to drive: 61% of active automated flows and 72% of active promotions, and 2 new A/B tests monthly. So you would think that these results must have been driven by literally like a village of marketers, right? And they probably have invested tons of money in that. Surprisingly, the marketing team that we're talking about is 3 team members, and the marketing tech spend is 9,000, plus approximately 200 annually for Microsoft Power BI. So if this is not inspiring, then honestly, let me know in the chat what is. But it just shows you all the great potential that, again, personalization can show for a business. So again, not only we talk about the loyalty and the increased customer satisfaction, we talk about real hard numbers of growing revenue and sales. We talk about retention, we talk about increased order value, and we talk about massive cost savings through efficiency. So that actually summarizes the webinar. So some of the things that you might remember from our today's session that hopefully you take away together with you. So first, ideally, we now do see that, again, personalization doesn't equal just launching an abandoned cart email, but there is so much more in it. Um, Different bits and pieces of communication across multiple channels, they can drive you this compound effect of synergy between channels that furtherly translates into, again, better customer experience and then sales. So again, you really need to think about it. Omni-channel is not that complex in implementation. It does not require that many team members, and again, thankfully, it's not that expensive. So one of the things that you can do, again, immediately after this webinar, again, explore different solutions. Explore Maestro, the company who helped us organize this webinar. Explore different tools, what can be done. But again, trust me, it's not that expensive at all. And yeah, use the numbers that you have seen as a benchmark, and all the best in your endeavors. So I'll pause now. I do see some of the questions in the chat, but also at the same time, I really want to encourage you guys to speak up. I know that sometimes it's frightening, especially when there are so many people. But again, this is like marketers' safe space. So please ask your questions if you may. Okay, so in the meantime, again, I do have a few questions here. So I want to make sure that I address all of them. So the first questions from uh, Priscilla. I do hope that I read it right. Apologies if not. And please speak up if you want to add anything else. She asks, okay, so it does seem like personalization means costly softwares and many people to handle it, doesn't it? And okay, so you asked this question at the very beginning of the webinar. So I think Benetton case greatly addresses that. But let me probably give you wider context. So obviously, when personalization is implemented across different teams with no connection, yes, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So imagine that, okay, advertising teams buys their own advertising solution to customize their ads. They the website team implements their own dynamic solution to, again, to do dynamic content. Then there is obviously marketing automation and email automation, separate tool. Then on top of that, some IT infrastructure. So when we talk about lack of connectedness between departments, 100%, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of investments. But the good news is, so first, right now, again, we don't live into this pandemic era anymore. So everyone now is super diligent and is super focused on ROI. So usually, in my experience, when you actually connect with other departments and offer them a case when, hey, why don't we use one platform to do it all? And it's usually not the no answer. It's usually like some curiosity. So in other words, there are solutions that can drive personalization across multiple channels through only one platform. Again, Maestro is one of them. Um, uh, and secondly, it's again about the synergy of team effort. So again, it's usually the question of coming all together as one united front to do personalization. So my, again, two recommended steps here would be: first, just connect with other departments, depending on how big your organization is. Find ambassadors in these departments to support your idea. um, Obviously get buy-in from the executive team members, because you will need some executive support in this, and then find a solution that can do it all. Again, I can tell you there are solutions like that. One of them already already provided. You will see that, again, there is this way, again, great way to cut down costs to, again, let's say 10K, 15K per month at best. So I do hope that I answered the question.
Yes, thanks, Olga.
You're very welcome. Perfect. Okay, moving on. So what software would you recommend to track and monitor customer data if you work if you work with limited team and resources? Okay, perfect. So in terms of tracking customer data, very very easy peasy. Start with Google Tag Manager, and that's like the first immediate point, and like use all the UTMs. So in my experience, even the most advanced marketing teams underuse UTMs. UTM parameters are usually like, first, they're not consolidated, they're inconsistent. Some campaigns are missing that. So in my previous companies, we would do audit of our like UTM parameters, and we would always find a way to either add an additional UTM parameter, or again, we would stumble upon certain inconsistencies in our Google Tag Manager. So the recommended next steps here. So first, check what you already have. If don't, start using those. Second, create a naming convention for all your UTM parameters and what they stand for. So that's secondly. Thirdly, popularize it across all the teams, so everyone is aware that they have to use it. So it's usually like as simple as that, and it's 100% free. It already makes a really really big change. So let me know if it answers your question. And in the meantime, okay, is United Colors of Benetton concerned about acquiring new customers, since they are only driving 12% of sales with new customers? I love this question. So that's a fair question that I would also ask. But at the same time, unfortunately, I do not have like the insight into the strategy for the year for this particular team. I do know that the goal was first to drive highly efficient marketing, and secondly, I would say it's always the question about the balance, right? So you always need to strike this perfect balance between acquisition and retention. So the usual thing that happens in marketing is we focus too much on acquisition, right? And then we completely forget about retention. So in this case, probably there was a misbalance over retention, but in my experience, again, it never hurts, to grow retention if you can. And I also see Ivan raising his hand. So Ivan, please chime in.
Yeah, so I can contribute a little bit to United Cars of Benetton story. So basically, it
Please.
was like a conscious business decision because it was like COVID year, a small market, almost fully served by this company. So they were like super focused on retaining their revenue during the COVID lockdowns, while keeping their brick and mortar locations still like uh, in their network. So it was all about efficiency and retaining the revenue of the COVID lockdowns and like early post-COVID era. So that was a goal. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I think, yeah, as always, it stems from the strategy, right, and from the goal that the company puts. But yeah, a very fair question. I would also ask that. Um, Okay, thank you, Caitlin, for your question. And then there is a question from Linnell. Are there any examples of how to stand out? Okay. Are there any examples of how to stand out among the crowd, as customers will get many different emails or push notification? Oh, yes. There are so many emails, right? So I think first and foremost, do regular competitors research. So that's one thing, because again, it's usually not all the noise that you need to get through, but it's like, okay, your particular niche, right? Your particular industry. So take a look at what your competitors do. You can use SEMrush to do this, research. You can use BuzzGuru. You can do as simple as go and subscribe to emails from all your key competitors. So once you see what they do, you would know, okay, everyone does that. You do basically the opposite, and then you test out your approach, right? So that's recommendation number one. Recommendation number two is obviously doing tests, right? So hard numbers would usually show what actually works and what does not. And here I would recommend I testing literally everything, right? So starting from headline to subheadline to CTA, text versus image based emails, um, caps lock versus no caps lock, different CTAs, then the amount of links. Who does this message come from? So to give you an example, we did notice that when the message came from female, from female name, for some reason people were more willing to open the message. It was the case in SEMrush. And then okay, it was like, okay, revelation, for some reason there was the stats, and then we applied it as a regular practice. So again, it very much, it obviously depends on your audience. So instead of going with your gut feeling, just test out all different parameters. So, and data will show you what to do. So these two steps is already a huge difference in comparison to everyone else playing. And I'm quite sure once you do that, you'll see quite a significant difference, and also you'll be inspired with some quite ideas. So let me know, Linnell, if it's a sufficient answer for you. Okay, yes, perfect. Thanks a lot. We did this research. Yes. Oh, yeah, I can see Valeria. So Valeria actually, yeah, is a former team member of the SEMrush team. So hey, high five. So it's a small world.
Hey, kudos. Yeah, kudos to
Kudos.
Olga.
Yes, yes.
Excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Valeria. Okay, so I do see that we are very much over the time, but again, at the same time, I'm so happy that we have received so many really, really good questions. So let's do another round of asking. So, do you guys have any other questions? Okay, so I do hope that it's a sign of there is a lot to digest. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, hopefully there is a lot to digest for you. Again, you will receive obviously the presentation, all the materials and the recordings. In the meantime, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy again to support the further conversation. And again, thanks to Maestro for organizing this webinar. I do hope that you found some value in it. So thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.